I'm ready if you are. All right. All right, good evening. I hope everybody had a great weekend. What a great game Saturday night. Yes, exactly. Go Tigers. We'll call this meeting to order December 10th, 2024. We'll start off with the invocation and pledge, and it's going to be Councilmember Fulmer, since Councilmember Smith is not here tonight. So.
Would you please join me in prayer? We have so much to be thankful for as we enter this Christmas season. As a community, let's not forget those among us who may not be as fortunate. We need to give thanks to those who serve our community as first responders and all of our city employees. As we begin next year with a new council, I'm excited for all the things that will be happening in Clemson. Let's start 2025 with a positive approach and attitude. In His name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. Next, we'll go into public session. Just a reminder, it's a 3-minute limit per speaker, so please come up, introduce yourself, share where your residence is. We'll open the floor up, and then I have a couple comments that were submitted before mid-afternoon today, and I'll read those as well. So the floor is yours. We'll just jump right in.
Robert Leo, 113 Preston. I have some review of the censure that happened last week. I just think there was some basic misunderstanding. And I learned from reading Supreme Court cases, this kind of hobby of mine, that they'll often they'll give a judgment, meaning their decision, and then their opinion of how they arrived at that decision. And that's always really interesting. And they really get thoroughly, sometimes brutally honest with each other, including calling others reasoning how they got to there. They might agree in the decision even, and say it was really folly how you got to that decision, even though I agree with it. So it's kind of, anyway, I disagreed with the dissent last week, and I didn't get very far into the analysis of it before I realized that there was a basic misunderstanding of it when they said judge and jury, that the council was being judge and jury. I said, well, of course it is. That's the design. It's in that particular setting, it is. It's judge, jury, witness, prosecutor, and defense. It's all in one. It's all, so to say that there was a basic misunderstanding, I think, before I even got to analyzing how they arrived at that reasoning. And it may be important that understanding is cleared up somehow, that hopefully that won't ever, a long time before that kind of thing happens, but I think there was a basic misunderstanding of it. And the one person who came up here, fearful that city council would reach out and somehow censure her, I think she was confusing censure with censor, like that would be censored. So I hope that's maybe cleared up too. But that was really the main thing I want to talk about, that there was a misunderstanding of it, and that the empathy is sometimes used in various settings. So in my view, empathy and looking at it's really a value-neutral thing. It really depends on what is done with that empathy. Looking online, reading, there's a whole study of the empathy of Adolf Hitler, the empathy of Donald Trump. It's all what he decided to do with that. So I think it showed a high degree of empathy of city council doing what it needed to do in that censure. I think that was a very embodied empathy to do what needed to be done, even though it was difficult. It was, the feeling, it was, unfortunate but necessary. That unfortunate was, there was a lot of feeling in there, but doing what needed to be done was important. So I thank you all for that, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Jupiter Chastain. I'm a former Clemson student, and I'm in Clemson for work nearly every day. In 2022, I was evicted from my student housing due to inability to pay the rent. If I didn't have family in the area to move in with, I would have been homeless. You see, my family has been in Pickens County since it was part of the old Pendleton district. And I have seen firsthand the effects of development and gentrification across Pickens, Oconee, and Anderson counties. I have shaken hands with unhoused people, and I myself have had to stay in a homeless shelter for months on end. Lucky for me, they had beds for that long. Before that, I experienced other forms of homelessness, including couch surfing, sleeping in my car, and sleeping in structures that were unfit for habitation just to get out of the elements. We are heading into the winter, which along with summer is the time of year shelters fill up fast. There will be community members sleeping outside in the elements. They will need help. Access to warm places, warm clothing, food, and water. Please remember our neighbors in need. You, council members, and anyone listening who has expendable income or the ability to volunteer, you have the power to help your community. The only question is, how will you use that power? So I ask you this, council members. How will the city work with local organizations to help our currently unhoused community members? How will the city help the rising number of unhoused people as development drives the cost of living higher? And how will the city work with the university to address housing for students such as myself who exhausted all available resources but still face homelessness? You have the power to help. Your community needs you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Rupert McGiddy, 216 North Clemson Avenue. I came down here tonight because I thought it was a good night to talk about rainwater, stormwater runoff. My yard's about a foot deep right now in the front driveway. I noticed, and this is in reference to the hub project. I noticed they've already gone ahead and knocked down the Potbelly Deli. They're starting progress on that. But yet, I don't think that architectural plans have been released yet. Have they been released yet on that project? You know? Can I ask that question, or they have not? Okay. The reason I asked that question about what's the plan for the hub is because the hub is the length of the Clemson Memorial Stadium, not as wide, but it's that length. So that's a lot of runoff water going into our lake, and that's a serious issue. And it involves people that manage the lake, probably the Corps. They manage that. So I guess what I'm saying is that this issue of runoff has not been addressed. At one time, I think the Corps was going to pay for the runoff water, or they call it storm water runoff management. They were going to pay for that, and I think in the second proposal that we voted on, it was not included, as Eleanor here pointed out when she spoke about this. So the question is, on this rainy night, what about that runoff water? I think that land is around 7 acres or something. That's a lot of runoff water, and it's all downhill to the lake. And I heard from a person that manages, who's an expert at runoff water, I forget his name, there've got to be holding ponds. Okay, where are the holding ponds going to go? Who's going to build them? And what's the plan? Here's the hub, they're knocking down Potbelly Deli. Okay, where's the plan on the runoff water? That was my first question. The second one, the TIF, I thought there was going to be a vote on the TIF. I looked on the schedule for Clemson. I don't see the vote. Is there a decision? Has that been announced yet? On what's going to happen on the TIF?
So normally, we're here to listen, so
I got you.
30
Okay.
seconds. Let me
Okay.
just answer that real quickly, just kind of, if that,
I think people want to know that.
yeah, so that's why.
I'll sit down
No, it's.
I'm done.
No,
now. Yeah.
basically, county council decided not to move forward.
The Clemson County Council?
No, Pickens County.
Pickens County.
Pickens County Council decided not to move forward, so we are not moving forward. There will not be a second vote on it at
Okay.
this time.
Okay.
We're still looking at what we're planning on doing as a city with the community on efforts for workforce and attainable housing.
Okay,
So
very
there's your answer,
I got you.
unless Andy would like to share any more. Then
That's
okay.
exactly
So
right.
yeah, you still have 30 seconds.
Or thank you. I'm good. Thank
Okay,
you.
yes, sir. Any other comments? All right, I will read these. All right, first one is from Shelley Gear on 204 Willow Street. Is there any update on when trees from hurricane will be removed from the sidewalks on Pendleton Road? The trees cover the sidewalks from the entrance to Brookwood down past Willow Street. This is a safety issue for neighborhood residents who walk and for Brookwood residents as they exit onto Pendleton Road. Walkers are forced to walk on Pendleton Road in many places. Again, on 204 Willow Street. Second one is 100 Lewis Road, Joshua Canalano. I think if I messed that up, I apologize. There are terrible internet options in the Lewis Road area. How is it possible to not have fiber internet within a half a mile of the university? Can pressure be placed on some company to provide service? Address is again 107 Lewis Road. So, were there any? There were none. Jeremiah, that was it, right? Okay, making sure. Yes, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Unless there's any other comments, we'll close out public session. I hear none. All right. We'll move on to the possible approval of minutes from December 2nd, 2024. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Comments, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move to reports and discussion. First is to receive a report on the ACAT sub allocation funding formula for Clemson area transit. Ally.
Thank you. As you'll remember, last year we moved from GPAT's, the Greenville Transit area, to the Anderson area, which made us a bigger fish in a smaller pond. But as part of that, we had to enter negotiations with the City of Anderson, Electric City Transit, and how that funding allocation would be. And it took many months to reach an agreement with them, but we have the MOU before you tonight. As you'll see from the formula, our overall funding will increase this coming year by $650,000, and then the next 3 years, a little over $50,000 a year. So this formula makes both of us whole from what we were receiving, and then they have a new program, Small Transit Intensive Cities, that focuses on very dense, smaller cities. So we will be receiving all of that funding because we fit that bill, and Anderson does not. So this DOT has looked at this, FTA has looked at this, and we want to put it before you for discussion.
Comments, questions for Ally? All right. Everybody, good job. Thank you. Great report. See? Next is discuss the text amendment to Chapter 7, Section 7-8, Fixed Assets. Brandon.
I'm surprising you.
Leslie. All right, Brandon, Leslie. Perfect. Well, Brandon's over there, so I was like,
He can join me, so.
I'm kind of checking out his color, what he's wearing, but I'm not supposed to be.
Christmas.
It's Christmas, thank you. Okay, thank you, Brandon.
Oh, you're welcome. So tonight, we just wanted to talk about kind of where we came from and how we got here to propose these changes, and then also for recommending a new actual capital asset policy. So during this year's audit, the manager on the audit and I had many conversations about our current policies, but also a new guidance that GASB has come out with that will affect FY25 financial statements. And basically, it has to do with bulk purchases. And so one of the things that in the past has happened is that we've been able to decide if we buy a lot of one thing that's less than our capital threshold, which at current is $5,000 per item, or $25,000 for infrastructure or buildings. But typically this would be a $5,000 kind of purchase. We've been able to decide whether we capitalize it or not, and that would be something that we would think was material to our financial statements. Well, what GASB has come out with is stating that now we don't have that right if we do not have a threshold policy for that type of purchase. And so that is part of the reason why we have recommended these, having more details of our thresholds and our useful lives based on the type of assets. But for this one purchase, currently, for example, and I want to give an example because it's hard to like grasp all of it without one, I think. And one of it, so currently, if we buy 500 water meters and they cost $300 each, and this happens, you know, it's not an uncommon thing, that's a $150,000 purchase that as of this GASB guidance says we would have to capitalize. Whereas if we set our own thresholds, then we could we would basically be able to keep doing what we've always done because we have not capitalized $300 purchases per item. So that's the first of the discussions with the auditor. And then as we talked, he talked about how if we were going to bring all of this to you, that maybe this is the time to look at all of them. I brought to y'all several years ago to raise the threshold from 1,000 to 5,000 and 25,000. So based on his experience, my experience, we basically made that change and we were probably 10 or 15 years behind. So basically what we're trying to do now is bring us to more current because of the fact that inflation has gone up, things are costing more, so let this be an opportunity to make these changes now, and then we would be set for a while, and we wouldn't have to come back. So as part of this is also in there that looks kind of grand, are leases and what they call SPIDAs, or subscription-based IT agreements. So GASB came out with 2 statements over the last several years, and basically if the total amount of your annual payments for a finite amount of time equal more than your threshold, whatever that threshold is, currently ours is 5,000 because that's what we have for all assets basically, then you have to capitalize it. So what that looks like is you book an asset that's called right to use asset. You amortize that asset over the life of the contract or agreement, and you book a liability. And so you have an asset liability on your balance sheet, and then you have this basically almost the same dollar amount. It may be a little more because the formula has to include some interest. But basically what you're normally paying in a monthly or an annual payment is close to your amortization. So if we were to buy something that the agreement was more than $250,000, that to me is very material. But I think that, and based on conversations, that this recommendation is reasonable, and so that's why we are coming to you tonight, and hopefully in the next few meetings if y'all are agreeable. And the part of the ordinance that we're wanting to change is that it really only discusses fixed assets, which are things you own actual and not any intangible assets. So if we change the ordinance to talk about capital assets and then referring to the policy that you hopefully will decide whether or not we should move forward with that, then making changes would basically be in the policy, and hopefully we will have the ordinance set in its the things that wouldn't change often or could possibly change. So, any questions? That was a lot, and I'm sorry.
No, that was good.
That's good for
Good
people who are
accounting
finance
lesson.
minded.
I like it. You simplified it. I love it. Questions, comments for Leslie? I don't see any.
Thank you.
See, there you go, perfect. All right, Nathan, I think you're gonna come up and talk about scheduling. I'll just read it for you. Public hearing for ordinance change, possible ordinance change to allow non-conforming properties to have vested rights if they were destroyed by other than voluntary actions. So,
Yeah, you may remember we came with this way back in, say, middle of last year, with a proposal, and that was met with, that we should do this across the city for some vested rights. I'm just here tonight to set a public hearing. I will stress, I would like to do this as soon as possible, preferably January, because due to the storm, we have some sheds, decks, and other things that were smashed by trees that don't meet proper setbacks, that can't be rebuilt until an ordinance is passed. So some of the fears that we had originally have come to fruition due to the storm. So if we can get this on this agenda, I would really like to see that, and then provided it passed, some of these folks can rebuild.
so are you thinking Monday, January 6th at like 5:30?
That'd be great.
Sounds awesome.
My calendar's
Perfect.
Bob's like, yes. Bob, good answer.
Love that date.
Okay, the three of us.
Let's do December 30, no.
I was looking at John, but yeah, that's not appropriate.
Yeah, I think that works well.
So we're looking
for a
at-
meeting.
You think 5:30 an hour? I'm gonna look
Yeah,
at,
I
I'll look
don't
at,
know that we need an hour, but
you do 5:30 and then of course we can start it as soon as,
whatever you guys think, yeah.
okay. And then that'd be enough time for the next, because we'd have the meeting the next Monday.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
it's
the
2
15
weeks.
days is just between now and.
Well, I know,
January
but we'd have enough time to put it on the agenda for,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so that,
Yeah, I have time.
it's more feedback about the timing to share if people are asking about it. Then we would have
Yeah.
that public hearing on that 6th, and then we also have a city council meeting the 13th.
But is there any issue with the new council members not being sworn in before we actually have this hearing?
I'll look at our
Start
expert.
your meeting, swear them in, and recess for a
Yeah.
public hearing, and then go back into your
That's a
meeting.
good point.
That's good, okay.
Not a last whole trick for you.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and I was also sure, I haven't made it, I've just, folks that I've talked to, I've said I'm gonna try to take it to a meeting in January, so I have not
Okay.
made any timeline promises.
So then I guess the public hearing would only be for council members.
well, we could start the meeting at 6 that night, and then, like you said, swear in the new city council members, and then start the public hearing after that.
Okay.
So basically about 6:15, 6:20, if you're,
I just worry about if we do that, the amount of
You're
time
assuming
for
it's
the
not-
public hearing.
Yeah, but you're also assuming there's not gonna be any public interest, and I gotta feel.
No, I think there's gonna be
Right,
quite a bit of
right. I
public
think the
hearing.
public hearing's gonna need,
I would actually say I'm fine to wait till the next meeting.
Okay, the
in
wait till-
January, if
okay.
you'd like to do the.
yeah, since it's only a week later, I think that might be a better
so
idea.
5:30 on the 13th.
Yeah, I do think there'll be some interest, so.
Sounds great?
Even better, if that still work for you, Duckworth?
Yeah, I think we're still okay.
All right, we have it down. Thank you, Nathan.
You writing it down like you're gonna be there?
Oh, no.
I saw there were
Wait on my
only,
e-blast.
Taking notes.
there were only a couple of us. Anyway, that's all right. Staff reports, Andy.
I'm gonna turn it over to Jeremiah, he's got some ITGA updates for you.
So I sent you an email about ITGA. If you are interested in going, please go ahead and let me know. Early bird deadline is January 31st, but try to do these in batches so that way I can have them all together. So if you're interested, let me know.
far as tree removal goes on state roads, we signed an agreement with SCDOT to allow them to remove the debris on state roads. We consider just doing it ourselves, but somehow the trees on those roads are bigger than our equipment can handle. So we've been checking in with them on a weekly basis to see when they'll be in our area, and so far we do not have any definite news to report.
So in reference to Pendleton Road, which is the South Carolina DOT road. Okay. Thank you. Any other report?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. Next, we'll move into policy action. Just a reminder, 2-minute limit per speaker. First is to consider a second reading of infrastructure reimbursement agreement between the city and One Clemson Development.
Thank you. There has been no changes since the first reading. We will change the dates on the actual agreement from November to December.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the second reading of infrastructure reimbursement agreement between the City of Clemson and One Clemson Development as presented.
Second.
Comments, questions, discussion, comments from the public? Okay. All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Other policy items, consider approving the funding plan for the Arts Center. Jay?
Okay. Before I say anything about the plan here, I just want to thank outgoing Councilman Duckworth and Brookover for your continued support of our department, and John for a champion heading up this here.
Thank you. Y'all do a great job, man.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
No change from the last presentation from Lisa with McMillan, Paston, and Smith.
I'll just say this is a worst case scenario funding plan. This year, we'll get it done, but I'd like to get into the budget and in January and see what our revenues and expenses are looking like, because some of these future contributions from the hospitality funds could be turned into debt service where you get a lot more bang for the buck, and we could do a borrowing that would help with some of the other projects we have on the horizon.
Can I make one comment? And I think John actually kind of planted the seed with me, because I mean, what, 5 years ago, we were talking about $4 million? Is that about right?
6 years, yep.
And so now we're talking 7, and we want to do the event center. And if we, I mean, I realize that's probably a bridge too far, but they're going to be there, and we're already, I mean, how much, economy of scale would it be to go ahead with it, knowing there's going to be a lot of debt involved? But if we wait another 4 years, that building's going to cost us $12 million.
I think that's where when they leverage the debt service this spring, looking at the budget will probably give you a good idea of that jumping off point of that. Because what this plan does is make it where you have a pad already, part of your parking's already graded out, and the amphitheater component, which is a big part of the public event center and amenities already in place too. So you're right. I think it'd be great to leverage it out. I think what Andy's got on tap for the budget will be
I mean, I realize
a good conversation for y'all this spring.
I mean, I realize we've got a lot of other things we're trying to do, like, Clemson Park and downtown and all those kind of things. And I think maybe a broader picture of, okay, source, I'm big about sources and uses of funds. So where are we, as far as, let's say, we're funding the Clemson Park, or where are we with this and that? And then maybe take a look, not at this one, this is a no-brainer, but, is there a way to do something a little bit different? Because this building will be used for a lot of things, but it will be used a lot to support the camps and everything else that's going on out there now.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, so I'm just, I know it's a lot of money, but pay me now or pay me
Phase
later.
2 is $8 million. Phase 2 is $8 million. It's more than this phase. But this is 11,000 square feet. That's 15,000 square feet.
Well, either way.
But I'm just saying, it's big money, but I'm gonna try to get you as much as I can, and then I think when you have an amount, it'll be a lot easier for you to divvy it up.
But I mean, it'll be obviously some other future councils we've got to deal with it, but I know we're looking at 8 today, we're looking at 12 probably when we get ready to do it. or more.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah.
Good point.
So,
All right. Thank you. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the funding plan for the Art Center facility as presented.
Second?
Other comments? Comments from the public? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much.
All right, next, consider adopting an ethics and code of conduct statement for elected and appointed officials.
So, yep, points 7 and 9 have seen edits since the last time you saw it. 7, we added the line, members shall have and consider the same information when making decisions. And then 9 was clarified language around disclosing a potential conflict of interest to the city attorney and city clerk. I don't know if it would help for me to read it out if y'all have already reviewed it, if you have comments.
Just better reflects our actual process.
Well, and it kind of like it was said when presented, a lot of this is already in the code of ordinances. This is just easier to present, acknowledge, digest.
It's just kind of one place.
Now, are we going to take up at a later date about the handoff of the public comments and those types of things? We had a second conversation about that, where, you know, you're passing your time from this one to the other one and all of those types of things.
Yeah, that's going to be in,
That would fall under this, I would think.
that's going to be future discussions, yeah.
Right.
We
They're
are-
really not, it will stay outside of this document.
What y'all should probably do is just take some quarterly reviews of all of the documentation ordinance about how we operate as a city. It needs to be refreshed. It's been years. That's why you're bringing all this into one place. I think your procedures for public comment, everything, it'd be hard to digest all that, I think, in one meeting, but you could probably break it up into sections and start. And got a lawyer over here, he'll get to look at it and do some writing and
Don't look the other way.
clean it up. Yeah, so don't look that way.
But the intent on that was not only the pass off of time, but also you come here speaking for somebody else that wasn't here.
Yeah, I think you take a look at the whole thing. I mean, that's-
Okay, but that'll be a separate document. Or a
Yes.
Separate event.
And separate
I think
discussion,
so.
most importantly, yeah.
Yeah. I think this is just applicable to council's board behavior.
I still have a huge problem with number 7.
Okay.
There's no way in the world you can live up to that as it is written. I mean, that's someone tells you something from the public, like in the 2 weeks between the meeting. You can't talk to the administrator, the deputy administrator, without then disclosing that. And I mean, it's okay to talk about it, but I mean, everything will have to happen in this room by the letter of the law, the way that is written still.
I think that last sentence takes a stab at cleaning
What's
that
that?
up a little bit. I think that last sentence takes a stab at basically saying if you get something of consequence, that you disclose it in a meeting, but it doesn't say you have to.
Yeah, but there's gonna be things that you get that can be confidential in nature as well,
Yeah.
from a citizen, from someone else, that you can't be like, hey, you know what, Alma told me this up here in the meeting, and Alma told me that in confidence. I can, discuss it in a way that it can't be connected to that person. But I mean, that one's still just, again, that's by the letter of that way that is written. It will be impossible for you all and future council members to live up to that without saying, I'm not going to do anything outside of official meetings for my responsibilities for council.
Do you have a suggestion on how to clarify the language closer to your goal with it?
I think, what I was saying last time is that, adjudicative matters, if you're talking about legal matters, that's one thing. For regular business, that is going, I mean, am I crazy? I mean, that is going to be a very difficult thing for you all to, I mean, almost impossible.
And I don't see where that last sentence necessarily breaks confidentiality, because it doesn't say you talk about where you get it from. It just says if it's pertinent information, you share it, not disclose if somebody told you something in confidence? Because you said, as you said just now, if somebody told you something in confidence, you could weave that into the information shared without disclosing who it was. And I did not interpret that last sentence as saying you had to say where you got it, just that you need to make sure everybody making a decision was making it with the same information.
I have also seen, and not speaking about confidential information, but if somebody gets something that should be considered in decision-making and shares it with Andy, he can then disseminate the information to council as a whole without a specially called meeting, without us meeting any kind of limits on communication. We have been careful about that as well.
But this is the trickiest one.
Members shall refrain from receiving information outside of an open public meeting or the agenda materials, except on advice of the city attorney.
Would that say?
That's like a blanket
What if you put
statement.
when possible?
That's a
Or
blanket.
seeking instead of receiving.
I'm gonna look at our attorney, put him on the spot. He's thinking.
We asked the other attorney to
So-
work it
That
up.
happens.
But I mean, does that mean, we
with
can't
council.
come here to the city and say, sit down with Nathan and talk about something? Does that mean we can't do that anymore?
I don't think that's the intention, but I understand why it reads that way.
I don't interpret it that way with the last sentence on there, but I can see where some.
But I mean, that's the way it's written, it can 100% be,
Yeah,
there's
you
not a
interpret
whole
it
lot of,
different than I do.
there's not a whole lot of interpretation there. And if you've signed this and someone calls you on it,
How
So,
would you word it?
yeah,
Well-
I just don't think I don't think it's practical. And again, I work with councils all over the place, and I've never seen anything like that. Because again, I hope we don't have council members that only come in here. You got to do your homework on a lot of these things, and everybody has different ways and different amounts of homework that they're going to do on different things along the way. And if I had to, I don't even know that I could keep track
So
of
question.
everything that I've considered or heard or thought about or information I've found, received, on.
if we were to remove the second sentence, for adjudicated matters pending before the body, members shall have and consider the same information when making decisions. Scratch second sentence, members shall publicly disclose substantive information that is relevant to the matter. Does that feel like it reaches the intent that we are looking for? I think we're all on the same page of what the intention is, but I understand the hang up with that sentence. I get it.
Yeah, I totally get.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's, again, it's fine, because I interpret it a little bit different. I think that third one gives you the wiggle room. If you remove that middle sentence, that should remove
Concerns with-
anything.
I have not reviewed it, but I'm trying to digest it here. But is the adjudicative, that's referring to legal matters, litigation, or is that just anything before the body?
I think that's something that's on this agenda right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I think that's probably a little restrictive, but as a practical matter, this is a policy that has no legal effect. So if any one of you were to violate it, I'm not really sure what.
I mean, like personally, I wouldn't sign this without crossing out and saying,
So what if you
except
take out that
item
second
7.
So if we take out that second sentence, can you digest that
But
easier?
even the first sentence, if you're not just talking adjudicative, if you're talking about legal matters that the attorney's involved, I get that. But again, I know I go out on certain things and I'm gonna do, it's like, all right, I might go do 20 hours of research on a topic on how to get something done. And then do I have to come in and give you all a dissertation on all that? Because even the first sentence, members shall have and consider the same information. If I go out and do more research on this thing, then do I have to give it to you all? Or give everything that I've looked at that point for anything that's coming before the
So what if you bring it
body?
up to, what if you bring the word substantive up there as well? Because I do think if there's something substantial in your research, whether I did your research or not, if it's substantial and it impacts the way a decision's made, I think everybody should have that information to consider.
I agree, but if you have everyone has a responsibility to do those things. And, again, if I've done that and I haven't given you, I haven't passed it all out and I come, and talk about it, am I in violation of this if I've signed that?
And that's where I think it's a little bit of the honor system it's not gonna be perfect. There is a little bit of integrity involved in it. And so Because I hear what you're saying, but again, so move the word
'Cause I know there's
substantive, move the
people
word
that-
substantive up there, so I don't need all your research. But if there's some key point, and I think we do that when we're talking anyway.
Right.
We should do that when we're talking anyway. So we're just trying to kind of move that forward.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's a tough one. Again, just the way that, and people do things very differently. I know I've witnessed people that I'm absolutely sure have not looked at a single thing on the agenda before it comes up, and may not even be reading it in the description there beforehand. And, and I certainly have different levels of going into depth on certain issues and things like that. That would just, again, I have no skin in the game, except I think you all, I mean, again, having done this a lot, working with people in this position all over the place, that there's some issues with that that you can't live up to.
Well, basically what it's saying right now, we would be dependent completely upon everything that's pushed out, and we wouldn't be able to come here and investigate and ask questions and better understand it. I guess is the way.
Or if you did, Andy or Ally or whoever is going to have to send a memo to everybody every time you have a
Or you
conversation.
make contact with everybody.
With staff. There's going to have to be a memo. You're going to have to send something out and say, hey, I had a conversation with Andy. You're going to need to verify that,
I
this
will
is
say,
accurate.
if I'm in a decision and you have a valuable piece of information about something that can affect why you're making your decision, I do feel it should be either a phone call to me to explain it, as well as everybody else, brought up in a public meeting or shared in a memo. I think that is the intention there. Yeah. However, I don't think that this also applies to every little thing down to this decision about this policy. I think it really is focusing on large decisions that we're making as a council that have a lot of public attention to ensure that we are doing our due diligence to inform each other and all be on the same page when making, even if we disagree, that we have the same evidence in front of us to disagree upon.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last sentence alone by itself takes care of the whole thing. Because you've got the substantive information that is relevant to a matter under consideration by the body. That one sentence would make it where, yeah, you have a responsibility to do that.
That makes sense.
You okay with that?
Are you okay with that?
Information?
Again, it's a
I'm okay
living
with that.
document too. You try it, it doesn't work, you pitch it out.
I think that makes sense.
You amend it, you look at
You
it.
start with members shall publicly disclose. Okay.
Okay, so sorry, I'll do it in order. No, that makes sense to me, Bob.
I just thought you can't, it would be very difficult for you to live up to the way those first two sentences are written at any point. It would be hard for you to do your jobs. And harder for them to do their jobs because there would have to be a ton of back and forth there.
Assistance, basically.
Yeah, you'd be adding a burden to already stretched folks.
Somebody like to make a motion? We'll get going.
So
We're gonna make a motion.
You gotta make a motion first.
Motion, John first.
So I'll make a motion to approve the policy with a change to point 7 to read, members shall publicly disclose substantive information that is relevant to the matter under consideration by the body which they may have received from sources outside the public decision-making process.
Second.
Okay. Now comments?
You could
What?
improve that by having some sort of evidentiary standards.
If you don't mind, if you come on up, yes, ma'am. Yeah, if you. No, you. Yes, ma'am.
I think that you could probably solve this issue with having some sort of evidentiary standards. So, like they would have in a court of law, a piece of evidence has to meet certain standards to be approved to be in a case presented before the jury. So you can have something like that so that someone doesn't have to report every little interaction that they have with a member of the public, but it would probably be easiest to have a separate document where you define like what counts as substantive information that would need to be shared.
That's good feedback.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how you define what's material.
Yeah, like basically define substantive in this
or
context.
What's material, however you want to quantify it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Herb Tyler, 143 folder. I would remove the word publicly based on your discussions there. You're wanting to disclose this information to each of y'all. There may be times in your communication that it's not public information. The word publicly implies that you will do it here in this chamber. That is not necessarily what needs to happen based on the business that you do. Get the word publicly out of it.
Thank you.
That was actually going to be my follow-up there. Is publicly or like something about, there's going to be times
That's a
where
good
things
point.
need to be kept confidential.
So
but
would
I
that
think-
be a different motion then to amend?
Yeah, you'd have to.
Members shall publicly disclose non-privileged,
What just shall
or
disclose?
just take it out.
Would have somebody withdraw your motion, make a new one.
Okay, I withdraw my motion. Sorry, Jeremiah.
Hit and run.
Our standards.
All right.
So now,
You withdrew your motion.
Yes, I'm withdrawing my
All in favor of?
wait.
Yeah, she's
if she-
withdrawing.
Yes.
Then we don't have to vote on it. You have to make a new motion.
New motion with the
dropping
amendments.
public.
Well, but before we do that, comments, we have some new council members. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but any suggestions? You're the one that's going to be signing this in the next year. So if you have any comments, doesn't mean you have to.
And you can also change it next year if you don't like the way something's working.
Exactly.
Or more public comments as well are welcome.
Yep. Yes, sir.
113 Preston Drive. Just question about the comment that it was not a policy, not of legal consequence, I think that was. I'm not sure. I didn't understand that.
From the attorney side of things,
It's a policy, so, a violation of it, by a council member, I guess would be, censure or some sort of,
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
wouldn't sue
you could
the
certainly get up
It would be an internal
You, the
administrative
public
My
is
matter.
certainly
personal
welcome
thoughts
to point
are-
out people's violations of it, but I don't think that it gives any kind of right to.
Other than council itself.
right, the intent of this is, as Lillian and John have presented in future or past discussions, is doing the right thing. It's something, that's the intent. But holding up from a legal side, we're just trying to make sure everybody abides by the same rules.
We're just setting a
It's bringing
standard.
a lot of our rules that are in existence into one place. So
Yeah.
if there is something illegal, you can reach out to the other places and find them, but it gets into a common place to at least know to start looking for that type of behavior and what the corresponding ordinance is.
And number 8 covers the confidential thing, but I think it still works, it still works better.
Yeah.
Drop publicly from that and have the last sentence drop publicly and drop the first 2 sentences.
Somebody like to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the policy with the change to point 7 to read. Members shall disclose substantive information that is relevant to the matter under consideration by the body which they may have received from the sources outside of the public decision-making process.
Second.
Okay. Comments and discussion? Public? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much for the
Thank you,
discussion.
See, and that was an example of where I didn't get a chance to do my homework deeply on this one before we got here tonight, so, yeah.
So next is mayor council reports, comments, new business. I'll start it off, y'all are okay. I'm gonna read this to make sure I get this. There's a lot of respect I have for the 3 that will be stepping off city council. So serving our community as a member of council is rewarding in many ways, but also requires a great deal of time, energy, and tonight marks the last meeting for 3 of our council members. And I want to take a minute to offer my sincere appreciation to them for committing so much to our city. Bob Burkover and Catherine Watt have both served Clemson for 4 years. Over the course of their time on council, they've experienced the challenges of COVID, natural disasters, growth, while also celebrating improvements such as the Green Crescent Trail, park improvements, infrastructure upgrades. I could keep on going. We are very appreciative to each of them for their contributions and wish them the best. John Duckworth is sitting in his last meeting. His wife is in attendance. I added that just now, Julie. After serving our city for 12 years, I will say that again, for 12 years, he has a front seat to a tremendous amount of change over the last 12 years. After all, our football team had not won their first of recent championships when he took his first oath of office. So let's consider that back in 2016 when they won it. In the years I've served with him, I have looked to him for guidance and trusted his input and advice. I personally want to thank him for his support and for his years of knowledge that have benefited our council as a whole. Thank you, John, for your many years of service to our city.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speech.
I want to thank the staff and all the employees, because, you know, we do some things that are maybe good, we do some things that are maybe boneheaded, but you guys just show up and make it all work, so thank you. Y'all kind of make it easy.
And I'd say ditto as well. The other thing that we were, coming in 2020, we had a massive changeover happening with staff. We had a interim administrator, and we were looking for, I think we've got all new department heads, seven department heads, except for, really the old guy Benji, is one of the few. But, man, again, like I was just saying, I work with city councils and city and county staffs all over the country, and by far, you guys are at the top of that heap, and it's been great to work with y'all. And also, it's been great having you on council as well, and it was learned a lot from you.
Well, thank you. I just had to go back and forth with you one more time. It's not that I disagree with you just now.
Yeah, exactly. And you all as well. It's been fun. I think we've done a lot, and really excited for the new crew back there. Y'all are gonna be great, and excited to see y'all keep the momentum, or I'll become your worst nightmare.
You're supposed to end it on a positive note, Bob. Do you want to say?
Amen, and I'm just kind of kidding.
Thank y'all both.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys.
Other comments, new business? All right, everybody's staring at me now. All righty, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any comments? All in favor, raise your right hand.
You get to lead off.